esteemed co-panelists. Actually, I'll be focused basically on an aspect that as a policeman bothers me a little, and I think should bother you a lot more. And that is about the data that is with the police or is going to be with the police. We are talking about the SecureIT, and this session is about securing the data. The interesting aspect is that while a lot of data is being generated across the board in the government, and we had people from the government talk about it, it is massive data that is being generated every day, every second. One of the issues is also that some of that data, government data, which is across the board sensitive, is also going to be with the police, as is happening across the world, across the developed world. And now the question from my side is, would you say that the data with the police, which is going to be with the police, let's just hone in on one aspect, the crime and criminal data, do you think it's a national asset? Yes or no? In fact, there are so many aspects to a crime and criminal data that we sometimes do not see the wood for the tree because we think it is about crime and criminals only. As I go along, I'll share with you that it can be an enormous amount of data. And crime is not just crime, crime is any infraction of law. So the moment you cross a red light and you have to pay a fine, you're already creating a data. And if there is an e-challan given to you and you pay up, you are creating a data and there is an identity involved there. The moment you are under surveillance, the moment your car goes through a sensor, you are creating data. Maybe there has been an infraction of law, maybe there has not been, but it is data about a citizen who is probably unaware that he is being regulated very, very closely. Probably we have not reached that stage in this country, but it is not far from now when it will have to be a surveillance society. We all know about this cliche called the Big Brother, but there is a very nice saying that if there was no Big Brother, some small brother would become Big Brother. It is not only the government that is playing Big Brother, it is many, many private companies, private institutions who are actually looking into identities. And even as you get into the net, there's a very nice saying in English now, it is really circulating that anything which is networkable is crime workable. Anything which is networkable is crime workable. So that is what is the sinister or the serious aspect of it that we must take cognizance of. The police gets data and it is going to get more and more data. We are into a e-governance project called CCTNS, Crime Criminal Tracking and Networking System. And it's not only about criminals. It is probably about many other things that involves the police. What is worrying is about anything on internet, anything cyber, anything data, we have a faith-based approach. And this is a quotation that I love. We have a faith-based approach to data security. In that we pray every night that nothing will happen. And that is just about it. Are we working on it? Yes, we are. Are we really aware of the implications? Probably we are. But it is not a system response. It's probably an individual response. Some people who are into it, who are really weighing the pros and cons of it. It is not a system response. Just an example. There was a data breach at Greater Manchester Police. The Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, investigated it. A substantial fine was levied. It was not actually revealed how much. It was quite substantial. It was actually a theft of a memory stick. No password protection or encryption was involved in that. What is worrying was it contained details of more than 1,000 people with links to serious crime investigations. Now you would think that all 1,000 were criminals? No. Probably a few of them were criminals because it was about a few crimes, but it was also about a lot of people who were witnesses, a lot of people who were supposed to testify, paralegals, a lot of people who were in the neighborhood, a lot of maybe forensic scientists, policemen, whatnot. So, the ICO Director of Data Protection said this, and this is what I think we'll have to keep it in perspective when we talk about data that is going to devolve to the police sooner or later. This was truly sensitive personal data left in the hands of a burglar by poor data security. The consequences of this type of breach really do send a shiver down the spine. Should have been obvious to the force, the police force, that the type of information stored on its computer meant proper data security was needed. What is the data with police now in India? I call it DWP, and that I think has to be contrasted with DWG, which is data with government. Data with police is a subset of data with government. Now, data with police. Right now in Indian police, we are everywhere, almost in every state. We had 5 policemen in the panel earlier. We are developing or have developed our own HRM. We have also MIS and assets and other things. What is also the most important data pool is the data on monitoring and surveillance and sensors. That is really multiplying. That is multiplying. And it is about civilians, like you and me. I'm a policeman, of course, but I'm a civilian first and then a policeman. And I'm a citizen first, then a policeman. Every one of us is a citizen first, then belongs to this profession. So, as a citizen, my data, whether I actually am committing a crime or a legal infraction or not, is being transmitted or being stored somewhere. Then the CCTNS. It does not involve only crime and criminals, as you can see. And it does not involve only ordinary crimes. It's organized crime, OC for organized crime, it's Naxal crime, it's about terrorist crime, it's about economic crimes. It involves the name of the accused and identity, it involves the name and identity and other details of the complainant, of suspects, who are just suspects, may not have done anything actually. And there are many suspects. In a typical FIR, let me be frank, when the police is actually at a loss as to who to pin the whole thing on, they put about 100 suspects sometimes. And may actually end up with none of them being convicted. But what about the database of the 100 suspects? And witnesses. There can be also multiple witnesses to a crime. Then, the shared data across states and police institutions. Sharing of data between, say, CBI, the FIU, the Enforcement Directorate, the Income Tax, and we are already talking of the NATGRID. Then, cross-platform data between vigilance. We are talking to passport, our data is talking to the passport, we are already connected, we are doing online verification of passport applications. That means we are getting the details of the citizens who are applying for passport, and we are doing a police verification and actually sending it online. RTO, that means the road transport, the transport authority. Other incidental references. Let me give you an example that we actually could catch hold of a Naxal leader in Jharkhand by sifting through the Manrega data. How? There was a remote village called Kamai in the western Singhbum district, which was very, very inaccessible. What we did was, we wanted to go through all the details of who lived in that village. If the force had to reach there, it had to not only cross a few hills, but also had to cross a river, so there was no way of coming there unannounced, even if you travel in the dark. So, we wanted to sift through the data and finally found that under the Manrega scheme, which is, they have an MIS, we found that a particular person and his family repeatedly got, either he got or his family, brothers, cousin brother, father, chacha got a scheme under the Manrega. And that name kept repeating, either as main name or the Karuf. It was a pseudonym. So we asked the village chowkidar who came over to the police station, who is this man whose name is being repeated? He said it's a pseudonym for X, and which was the Naxal man. So we asked, what does he do? He says he comes only in the evenings, late night, and then he pays off the laborers and then disappears before first light. So we had to actually put some people along with the chowkidar, and they actually stayed a few days so that they were treated as people who had come with the chowkidar, and then he was nabbed. But if you look back at it, it was a database which had totally no connection with the police. So the data is going to talk to each other. You cannot say that this is the data that the police doesn't need. The police will need probably any data if they have to delve into a crime which is very, very complicated. So it can be PDS data, it can be any data. And in fact, as I say this, I'm reminded of the fact that unlike UP, where Naveen is working, Jharkhand is one state where the SDC has not come up yet. So much of the SDC work, of course not the majority, but some of the SDC work is actually stored in the police data center, which we've managed to, through some other police bondation money, long back. And the PDS data, the commercial taxes, is actually operating from the police data center. So this is about, and I'm not saying it is the police data center anymore, it's actually the government data center. Or it is, you can say it is the extension of the SDC which is going to be very soon. So it will be probably the DR of the SDC. So the issue is there is a convergence of data, and there is no such thing, probably will be no such thing as exclusively police data and exclusively non-police government data. So the bottom line is DWP, the data with police, and this I want you to really think about, is going to multiply in the future exponentially. And it goes without saying it needs to be protected very, very assiduously. What's the way forward? Well, most of the developed governments who have really thought seriously about it have acts and protocols and rules. We have a mention of reasonable protection and procedures, but I think that's not enough as far as the IT Act is concerned. Probably a Data Protection Act is called for, maybe something more elaborate, more protocols at every level also. Data-related awareness and sensibility at all levels. Built-in security into databases, that is something all of us understand here. Encryption across devices. In the police data, this is very, very critical, and I don't think encryption is a luxury, it is actually a necessity now. Detailed audit trails, but more than anything else, probably training. The capacity building about the sense of security, of sensibility about security, awareness about security, securing the data. It is said that police probably would not like to have a community cloud or a public cloud, probably to like to have a private cloud, but I've gone through a lot of literature, and the best solutions that are being looked at by the best police forces of the world is, since they are going to have so much data, is probably whatever cloud, may be public or private, but encrypted at rest. In cloud, but encrypted at rest. Probably that's a solution that looks solid and workable to us. But what is most required, just to go away from the technical, is guidelines for creation, transmission, storage of criminal justice information and all data with police. There are no guidelines right now. And I think it should be done sooner than later, because the amount of volumes of data that are going to be with the police, which are just data about private citizens, just like you and me, is not a joke. And probably there is not enough thought going into that aspect of it. What will the police do with that data? Will they be able to handle it properly? Will they be able to secure it properly? There is an example, the Criminal Justice Information System with the US. They have a security policy that sets minimum standards that individual jurisdictions may exceed at their own jurisdiction, but minimum standards are at least laid out, and everybody is trained to handle data with those minimum standards in mind. Just to conclude, policing, I always have believed, is too important to be left only to the police. It is a business of you and me, everyone. And I have this favorite statement: every citizen is a policeman without uniform, just as every policeman is a citizen with uniform. So everybody has a concern here, and it has to be. I do not know whether it's going to be a public-private partnership, but I'm sure, just like in any other aspect of securing anything, there's always an X factor. I think Coach will understand this. There is always an X factor in security. There is no such thing as 100% security. There is an X factor. In data security, there is more than an X factor. I think X to the power, I don't know how much. And that is why it is very, very important that whatever data is going to the security agencies, which will actually reside in the security agencies, whether they will be able to use it properly and secure it properly, it's a question that entire government, the community and the police should sit together and really celebrate about. Thank you very much.